From the Incorrigibles to the NBA, Part 1 of 2 parts. During the podcast, A Relay with Naismith, I briefly summarized how the game of basketball was invented in December of 1891. How Naismith was a third stringer. He was the third choice of teachers in a gym class, and he did not want to teach the class, nor did the students want him. A combustible situation. It's in the first 14 minutes of my podcast, A Relay with Naismith. This YouTube podcast is part 1 of 2 parts on how the game grew from that small YMCA gym class into the high-powered, nationwide, worldwide National Basketball Association. We begin this part of the journey still with that gym class on December 21st, 1891, to go more in depth because there is serendipity benefiting the growth of the game. Naismith was urgently exploring an indoor game as the freezing and protracted winters of Massachusetts prohibited outdoor exercise in games. As important, he wanted this to be a non-contact sport. We all know basketball has always involved contact, not brain-jarring, crashing collisions, but via pure competitive spirit of athletes competing. That assured, some contact was always going to be impossible to stop. Still, basketball from day one was regulated or monitored more closely than any sport that did not involve a tennis racket, a golf course, pool, or the running track. Even baseball had aggressive base running and did not prohibit the collision at home plate between runner and catcher until 2014. Naismith is proposing a non-contact indoor game that eliminates reckless hostility. In fact, of his 13, his first 7 rules are designed to eliminate punishing contact and to control aggressiveness within the game. It's not until rule number 8 that he details how to score in the game. Naismith wrote, "The invention of basketball was not an accident. It was developed to meet a need. The boys simply would not play drop the handkerchief. I did not blame them for being rebellious against childlike picnic games." Naismith wrote an article explaining his 13 rules less than a month after game creation in The Triangle. That was a monthly journal published by and distributed to all of the YMCAs across the country. He writes, "This new game calls for physical judgment and coordination of every muscle and gives all-around development." He's including the mind or brain there. "If men will not be gentlemen in their play, it is our place to encourage games that may be played gentlemanly but in a manly way and show them that science is superior to brute force with a disregard for the feelings of others." He wants to develop character and ethical behavior through his game. He said later, "Basketball is not just a game, but a way of life." That quote could have been inspired by his early boyhood dream of becoming a pastor. In college, he changes from seeking the pulpit to teaching physical fitness, although his degree is in theology. He becomes a medical doctor as well. He felt he could help more people by espousing clean living and exercise to stay vigorous, that a robust, athletic, or physical or workout life could even help save the soul. Naismith's true purpose of character building came from the pastoral attitude of patience and understanding. He never called that class Incorrigibles. He didn't do that. The other teachers did that. This class then responded to him ultimately in a positive manner. I believe Naismith wanted coaches to understand their team. It motivates players when coaches understand them. And I don't mean coddle them or be soft with them, but understand who they are and what motivates players on the team. Naismith had 18 players, students, whose motivations were fragmented. He had to track them down and motivate individuals, but as a group, which is very similar to a basketball team today. That first team, the Incorrigibles, was also scouted. And the scout is such a critical area of our coaching a team. Again, this is day 1 of the game, and there's a scout involved because he's the third teacher of the class, and the other 2 give him the scout. It reminds me of when a close friend of mine told me, "Don, you don't need to scout this team you're going to play. They're so terrible. That was the team we were playing next. They're so bad, he says, you don't even need a VHS tape. And coaches of a certain age, you'll remember the VHS. We traded those for many years, meeting the other coach at some halfway point between schools or houses, gas stations, convenience stores, someplace. We'd trade tapes. Today, the internet, of course, takes care of all that. But I did not scout that team that my friend told me about, and I still regret it, and that was 25 years ago. The Naismithian point here is the first scout in basketball history was a bad one. The rap on the class, the team he was walking into, he found the word incorrigible was not true. Naismith scouted the situation, and he found out that it was really a team looking for challenging competition physically and mentally. Naismith's first thought that he tangibly recognizes for game creation was no running with the ball. I find it surprising that this unlocked the game marinating in his head. I thought it would be elevating the basket to score above the crowd because that's so original. But Naismith said, if you can't run, there will be no tackling and the roughness will be eliminated. It's rule number 3. It says a player cannot run with the ball. The player must throw it from the spot on which he catches it. Allowance to be made for a man who catches the ball when running at a good speed if he tries to stop. Dribbling is introduced somewhere between 1899 and 1901. That's when the pivot foot evolves into the game as well. But this idea of not running with the ball to prevent tackling or collisions begins a domino effect of thoughts. Since you can't run with the ball, what could you do? He asked himself. Well, you can pass it. Teammate can catch it. How could the opposition react to that? Rule number 5, no shouldering, holding, pushing, striking, or tripping, meaning no tackling, pushing, or elbowing. Could the defense intercept the pass? Yes, as long as there's no physical interference. And what direction could you pass the ball? Football, which was a very popular sport of the era, and Naismith had played football on his college team, there was no forward pass allowed until 1933. He decides in his game you can pass in any direction. Also revolutionary, and that he is 40 years ahead of the football forward pass. With the rules in his head, he goes into work early. He gets to the Y first thing. He knows he needs a ball. So he looks around the Y, and his choice is football or soccer ball. He goes with the soccer ball. Here's the central serendipity of the day. The 2 peach baskets he famously hangs at each end of the court. He originally envisioned boxes, but his building custodian, Pop Stebbins, says, no boxes, we don't have any. This is same day. There's no time to go out and find anything as class is about to start in a couple of hours. Stebbins comes up with an alternative. No boxes, but he did have 2 old peach baskets he had stored away for something. Why did he keep the peach baskets in storage? My conjecture, Stebbins would say, they were nice baskets. I figured they could be used for something, although I didn't know what. And he couldn't have imagined they would be used in a game that hadn't yet been invented. Here are the peach baskets, Mr. Naismith. I got them out of storage. Where would the scoring baskets go? Naismith had decided to elevate it, which was unique. Most games are bound by on-ground scoring. You could say a field goal in football is air-bound, but runs, touchdowns, goals, all on the ground. Stebbins and Naismith get the latter. Accounts differ on who climbed it and nailed the baskets into the beam. Pop Stebbins is the maintenance professional, repairing, painting, hanging things throughout the training center complex. But Naismith is younger. He just turned 30 in November, and he's on a mission. And we all know as coaches, when a coach is on a mission, he or she does not mind doing it themselves. In his handwritten notes on page 42 of The Man Who Invented Basketball, I nailed them to the gallery, one at each end, and the equipment was ready. That's the most definitive proof that Naismith climbed the ladder, and he nailed the first baskets at the Springfield YMCA. There are no lines on the gym floor. Gymnastics equipment and weights are jammed around the edges. Plus, it's small. There was a gallery above that circled the gym floor. If you're watching this YouTube podcast, I had an artist illustrate it. Today, we call it a balcony or a track. To walk or run around is very common at today's Ys, that you're down on the floor, on the gym, and you look up and people are running and walking around the top in a circular track. But back then, this was a gallery for spectators to hang over the rail or lean on it and watch. To place the first baskets in basketball history, they had to go below the wood spindles of the rail and be nailed into the wood beam, or the basket would not be sturdy. As it turned out, that height to nail it into the wood beam below the rail was 10 feet. Dictated not by some mathematical equation or precise analytics, but by the luck of what the gallery permitted. Naismith later said if it had allowed 11 or 12 feet, that's where it would have been nailed. I had always wondered why in the original 13 there was not a specific rule for what the height of the basket should be. The closest he comes is rule number 8. A goal shall be made when the ball is thrown or batted from the grounds into the basket. More on those words, into the basket, in a moment. He wrote the rules freehand at his Y desk about an hour before class. But he had them typed up by the one female employed at the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association, Miss Lyons. It's close to the class starting. So if you look at the original 13 rules, I surmise, more conjecture, he knew by then rule number 8 would be a basket and not the box he was thinking about as he had walked in that morning. See the handwritten insert symbol right there? It says into the basket. He hand wrote that in. It's not in Miss Lyons' original neatly typed document. And it seems certain he didn't know the exact height of the basket either. He and Pop just nailed it up under the circular gallery. This game first has no name, and the height of the essential scoring mechanism which leads to the outcome of the game is unknown on December 21st, 1891. The 13 rules document, which auctioned for over $4 million and is displayed at the University of Kansas Allen Fieldhouse, basketball is 2 words, capital B, basket, capital B, ball. And the name is handwritten. The rest is neatly typed by Miss Lyons. I believe that's because one of his players, students, Frank Mann, came back from Christmas break, which was well after December 21st, and he had a name. He suggested Naismith ball, but the modest Naismith rejected it. Mann said, well, how about basketball? Accepted. Somewhere in the time horizon, Naismith freehands the name of the game atop the rules. His triangle article we discussed is published 25 days after the first game, and it has a 2-word name. Sports writers on the basketball beat made it just 1 word in the early 1920s. So for about 30 years, the game was 2 words. In the early 1920s, it becomes 1 word. In 1894, the first basketball was on the market. So the game had its name, and now it had its own ball. It was brown initially, by the way, not orange, until the 1950s when it became the distinctive orange color it is today. As for the 10 feet, I have one more question. Who officially measured it? There wasn't time before the class, and I don't think anyone would have known how high the lower beam of that gallery or balcony was. And Miss Lyons' typed version does not include it anywhere. So who found out that it wasn't 8 feet or 9.5 feet or 11.5 feet, that it was 10 feet? Here's the best I could find. This height was adopted as the standard and has remained consistent since then. That's accurate, but it's vague. I'm in search of the elusive evidence of who measured 10 feet as the basket hung on the wood beam of the gallery. Here's what I think is a reasonable theory. Pop Stebbins. I'm saying he measured it later in the day after gym class. Everyone had departed. He goes back. He measures it. Maybe it was just later in the week when he had time. But measuring tapes have been in use since 1829, and they weren't expensive. Pop would have had to have something like this measuring tape among his tools, perhaps near where he stored the peach baskets. And he had to feel excited. He had to feel that he was a huge part of the day. The baskets, after all, were his idea. I say Pop measured, and he told Naismith basket height exactly 10 feet. A key component of the game legacy carried through the generations of the 19th, 20th, and now the 21st century. Naismith used a thumbtack to pin the typed rules to the bulletin board inside the gym. His class reviewed the brand new document of the unnamed game at 11:30 a.m. Naismith said in his book, Origin and Development, that the game was, quote, a success from the first time the ball was tossed up. He had an opening jump. And it was in, quote, full swing by noon. 18 players, they played 9-on-9. Rule number 12, 2 15-minute halves with a 5-minute halftime. Rule number 13, the team making the most goals in that time shall be declared the winner. The final score, 1-0. Some luck that day, yes, but not to diminish that he has done two seemingly impossible things. Number one, invent a game for the ages. He wasn't trying to do that. His objective was much smaller. He says, I felt this was a crucial moment in my life as it meant success or failure of my attempt to hold the interest of this class. In other words, connect with his class. That's number two. Connect with a difficult class or team. All coaches know we need to connect. We need buy-in from players. Maybe because it was part of the game's day one DNA. I mean, what if that class does not like the game, objects to the game, does not buy in? Maybe it ends right there with no name for the game, just dying an anonymous death in a mundane Springfield, Massachusetts gym. Instead, he has created a game that men and women of all creed and races become captivated by. It will grow into a billions of dollars industry called the National Basketball Association. Next podcast, we're going to leave that Springfield gym and discuss how the game evolved from a tiny college gym class into the formation of the NBA. That story coming soon. Next podcast, Part 2, from the Incorrigibles to the NBA. Please subscribe to this channel. It helps me, and it's free for you. You can email me any ideas you'd like to hear on this channel. My Gmail is on the title page. This channel is The Coach's Road, where basketball coaches travel, along with passionate hoop enthusiasts.